Hello there and welcome along. The Gardener Ben here with your next peony review. And the particularly peony just off to my left gives me a good reason to continue these personal reviews on all products, whether it's roses or whether it's peonies and sweet peas and dahlias, all of those things that you see me in front of. This particular peony, much as it is incredibly beautiful, is not as it is described all over the internet. And I think it's being described on the internet in a certain way because they really want you to buy a red peony. This particular one is Paul M. Wild. This particular variety described as red on multitudes of different websites from America all the way to the RHS and here in the UK. Purchased by myself with that fateful delivery that some of you will remember that arrived with me in early May. I'm not going to give the very large peony company here in the UK any more extra time with this particular delivery, but needless to say, Paul M. Wild, along with the other peonies supplied at the time, arrived in a disastrous condition, battered, bruised, out of their pots and basically thrown about. This particular plant was incredibly expensive, only going to prove to me that you have to be very careful with why you're buying plants online and pay close attention to the descriptions that you're looking at, because much as this peony is particularly beautiful, it is certainly not red. Might be close to red, but this to me is definitely a strong magenta pink. And for those of you that follow along for rose related content, and you might be familiar with a rose from David Austin Roses, Thomas A. Becket, a very similar type of color to Thomas A. Becket and a very similar sort of flower indeed. And I actually described Thomas A. Becket in its review about having these large pendulous blooms, much like a peony or a shower loofah, and that's exactly what Paul M. Wild looks like. It is a mid to late flowering variety, producing flowers in late May and into early June. Another thing that I'm going to be completely going against on the internet, say multitudes of sites saying this one has strong, sturdy, upwards facing stems, which is not the case with my particular peony. Now, I take full responsibility that my plant is young, however, was supposed to be supplied with about 5 to 7 eyes on it. So it was supposed to be a mature plant, so it shouldn't really affect the stems. It should have actually had the capabilities of carrying its own blooms, but these stems are very lank, especially when we're talking about a flower head the size that Paul M. Wild actually has, something in a region of about 4 to 5.5 inches in diameter, very heavy. This little strong magenta pink, highly textured, highly ruffled, with those outer guard petals rolling back to expose that full bomb shaped in the center, those petals rolling back towards the stem. But the stems are particularly lank, they are particularly floppy. So if I was growing this one in the garden, especially as this one gets up to around 85 to 90 centimeters in height, I would be sure to plant this in a sheltered position in the garden, or give it some support, because it's going to need a peony hoop, or it's going to need some pea sticks, or it's going to end up face down in the soil with these beautiful blooms planted in the soil itself. So producing flowers in late May and early June. This particular variety, not fussy whether it takes full sun or partial shade, but make sure that you give it a rich, well fertile soil that's well draining, giving it about 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. Any more and I think you'll bleach out this very spectacular magenta pink color. A lot of the internet says that this has absolutely no violet or blue in it, which is a negative point when you're talking about reds, which only goes to highlight that people want you to buy this particular peony because it's red, and it is certainly not red. And in my opinion, has loads and loads of magenta, loads of violet, and loads of blue to be seen in it, especially as the plant ages, which is why I feel it's so important I continue to bring these personal reviews outside, unfiltered, unedited, and more importantly, in natural light, so you can get to see the colors. This particular peony is absolutely beautiful. It's going to mix really well here in my garden with a multitude of different roses and herbaceous perennials, but it's certainly not red. When it emerges in the ground in early spring, again, that's telltale orange, red and yellow hues to the stems. The leaves are a standard mid-green, still waxy, still tough and still leathery to the touch. No different colorations in the leaves whatsoever, just a slight amount of purple and red to the center, which does actually still maintain on the flower stems themselves. You can see a slight amount of burgundy on the stem there, which is a nice quality. This one reaching something in a region of 85 to 90 centimeters in height and around 80 to 90 centimeters in diameter once it's fully established. But this one, Paul M. Wild, is not red. It is certainly a strong magenta pink, and in my opinion has lots and lots of violet and blue marbled through it, which for me is not a bad thing. I'm going to continue to trial this one in the garden and see whether it actually improves with age. But at the moment, I'm impressed with the flower, but the actual plant supplied itself, I'm a little bit disappointed with. It was an awful lot of money for the plant that was actually supplied. So do be careful where you're buying from, and do make sure that you check out a lot of my personal reviews if you want things that are filmed in natural light and are unedited, unfiltered. Say very, very pretty, but not red at all. This is Peony Paul M. Wild.